Well, the holidays have come and gone once again, but if you've forgotten to get that special someone in your life a gift, well, Mint Mobile is extending their holiday offer of half off unlimited wireless. So here's the idea. You get it now, you call it an early present for next year. What do you have to lose? Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Limited time 50% off regular price for new customers. Upfront payment required. $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan. Taxes and fees extra. Speeds may slow after 50 gigabytes per month when network is busy. See terms.
AI had the time of my life. AI never felt this way before.
From building timelines to assigning the right people and even spotting risks across dozens of projects, Monday Sidekick knows your business, thinks ahead, and takes action. One click on the star and consider it done.
And I owe it all to you.
Try Monday Sidekick. AI you'll love to use on Monday.com.
Welcome to True Crime Garage. Wherever you are, whatever you are doing, thanks for listening. I'm your host, Nick, and with me, as always, is a man who is once, twice, 3 times a captain. Here is the captain.
And don't you ever forget it. It's good to be seen and good to see you. Thanks for listening, and thanks for telling a friend.
Wiedemann's has been brewing beer since 1870. It was George Wiedemann way back then. So this is a beer brewing tradition for over 150 years. And we are featuring one of their beers called Wake Me Up. It's just another great offering from the fine folks at Wiedemann's Brewing Company. First in Newport, Kentucky, now in Cincinnati, Ohio. It's a delicious hazelnut coffee milk stout. The milk and hazelnut mask the bitterness of the stout and coffee, but both of those provide the roasted flavor that I like so much. Garage grade 3 3/4 bottle caps out of 5. And let's raise a glass and give some cheers to our good garage friends. First up, a shout out to Michelle Hargis in Austin, Texas.
And a big tall cans in there goes to Sea Dog in Longmont, Colorado.
Next, we have a cheers to Carrie in Parts Unknown. And last but certainly not least, we have a cheers to Hannah in Inishtig, Ireland. Everyone we just mentioned, they went to truecrimegarage.com and helped us out with this week's beer fund for the beer run. And for that, we say thank you.
Yeah, we're roasty and we're toasty. BEERRUN beer run. Make sure you check out truecrimegarage.com. Sign up on the mailing list. And Colonel, that's enough of the business.
All right, everybody, gather around, grab a chair, grab a beer. Let's talk some true crime. It was another great year in the garage. In fact, it was the year, 2025 was the year when we celebrated 10 years of garage goodness. And thank you all for listening, both new listeners and ones that have been with us for the entirety of the ride thus far. And we say thus far because I don't think that this flying garage ship is going to slow down anytime soon. So please gather around, grab a chair, grab some more beers, and let's continue talking about some true crime together for many years to come. But today, let's take a peek at the rear view mirror, right? Let's see what is in the rear view.
Let's stick our heads up our asses and check out what's happening.
We've done this most years. I won't
We
say
tried to.
every year. We probably should have done it every year. We would have been smarter to have done so, but did not. Sometimes when we hit that turn of the year going into early January where it would be most appropriate to do this type of show, we find ourselves really enthralled in a particular case and excited to get to that one, and it kind of clouds our judgment. So This year we've sifted through the fog and the clouds, and we are back at it again. We are going to talk about our favorite, the Colonel and the Captain's favorite True Crime Garage episodes of 2025. So if you missed some episodes, we don't hold it against you, but here's your opportunity to let us tickle your earballs a little bit, and maybe you go back and dial these up on your garage radio dial and tune in to what you may have missed. Or if you agree with us, go back and listen again. The thing I love about this here, Captain, this is the perfect time for us to ask the listeners. Hit us up on Instagram, on X. Let us know your favorite True Crime Garage episodes of 2025.
Yeah, give us your top 3. When we decided, hey, we should do this again. It's fun. I can't remember if last year we did our top 5 or what we did, but top 3 is fun. I think top 3 is the way to go. But I was actually surprised because I was like, okay, I got to open up my podcast app, click on True Crime Garage. I got to scroll through the episodes and see which ones I even remember. But I was actually shocked how many I was like, oh, that's a good one. Oh, and that one was a good one too. I thought this list would be a lot easier, and not just because like, I actually thought like, okay, well, maybe it was just like, it felt like a good year, but like going back, I was like, man, you could make an argument that these are some of the best episodes we've ever done.
Yeah, I agree 100%. So when we first talked about doing this, there were 4, right? We said we'll do a top 3. There were 4 immediately that I was like, oh, my 3 live within this 4 here.
Right.
Then when I went back, because what I wanted to do was I wanted to figure out when those episodes were released. And I'm looking through the 2025 catalog, and there were like several others that I think make a strong argument to be in that top 3, maybe hold that 3rd spot. So the waters got a little murky once I started sifting through. I was really impressed with our 2025 catalog here. And you're right. It ended up being a little more difficult than I had originally anticipated. If you're fine with it, Captain, I'll go ahead and kick things off with my number 3.
Yeah, kick it off.
This one might feel like cheating a little bit. But most weeks we are doing 2 episodes. Most cases we cover, there are 2 episodes on that case. So I guess in that regard, there would be no cheating. But with my number 3, it was actually a 6-part series that we did all the way back in April of 2025. And the title of that 6-part series was Hate American Made. I shouldn't lead out the gate with this because it's kind of, well, I feel like this one might have been met with some mixed reviews. Yeah. I think that's fair to say, but I have to put together my top 3 based off of my experience, right?
Yeah,
not
no lying.
Off of the listener's experience.
Right.
And the thing here with this one, for me, it was much like in the movie Christmas Story, right? Where Ralphie has to write a paper about what he wants for Christmas. Remember, he's so impressed with this paper, and he thinks that the teacher is just she's going to love and dote on him because he did such a fantastic job on this paper. It's the best thing he's ever written. He turns it in, and then when he gets it back, reality sets in. He got a C+ or a C- maybe. I can't remember. But he was expecting an A++++++.
Right.
I shouldn't say that that's what I was expecting here, but I feel like I kind of felt like Ralphie in the moment once these episodes were coming out. And I think the reason why it was mixed, it had mixed emotions, is that I think that we're living in a day and age where, for us anyway, as adults, for the listeners, when I say us, I mean all of us collectively, it feels like we are just bombarded with so much politics and political rhetoric and all that bullshit, because that's really what it is at the end of the day, bullshit. I mean, people can have their strong opinions and their strong feelings, but let's clear our heads, because at the end of the day, none of them really care about any of us. And I don't want to go down that road too far, but I think that it's an opportunity, if we can see it for what it is, to realize we don't need to battle with each other, because they won't battle for us. So we shouldn't battle for them. That's just my opinion. And I can see why this would be met with, hey, there's too much politics in this world right now. The other thing we need to pump the brakes on too is the too much politics thing. I keep hearing that. If you go back, I'm a person who enjoys learning about history and continuing that learning for the rest of my life. This is something that's happened regularly throughout the history of our country and many, many other countries. This isn't anything new. This is not the worst it's ever been. It just is what it is. People argue and bicker about politics.
Yeah.
We weren't trying to join in those arguments with these episodes.
Yeah.
The reason why I liked doing these episodes, this 6-part series, is rarely do we do a 6-part series. One. And I'm not going to lie, I'm a little jealous of some of the shows out there that can dedicate an entire season to a single case, or dedicate an entire season or 10 episodes, 12 episodes, 12 weeks of listening pleasure to one storyline. It's rare for us to be able to live in that case, in that story for weeks. And here, doing the research for this, while each episode was about a different story, we found in our research that a lot of these stories, they were somewhat tied together, or have reason to be suspicious that they all could be tied together. As dark as the subject is, I hate to say, it's fun. It was fun to live in that world for like 3-4 weeks, where all I had to do for that 3.5 weeks was examine these stories. So I'll break it down best I can here for you. The 6-part series, it ran in April of 2025. It was titled Hate, American Made. The purpose of that title was not to any slight at our country. It will be hard for you to find garage guys more patriotic than us. It just will be.
Yes, I love America and I love the people. And sometimes us as a society, we act a little strange, or we forget that we're all in this together, and we need to be kind to each other. And like you said, I think not to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but it's like, I think the people in power like it when you pick the red team or you pick the blue team, when it's like, you should pick team people. Always pick team people. And if you are kind to each other, don't let people distract you and separate you.
Well, and my joke, I've said it probably 5 times throughout our 10 years here together, but
pull my finger.
John Wayne Gacy was a Democrat. Ted Bundy was a Republican. That's why I'm an independent. Those are perfect examples to be an independent. And look, when we put this together, and when we put together other episodes, there's an American flag that flies proudly outside of this garage, right in front of the garage here, flies every day. Now, I will take it down if we have like a windstorm or something, because I'm not going to let Old Glory get beat up. Mm-hmm. But when we put these together, none of this is ever for the right or the left or the red or the blue or even the middle. This is a show for the people.
Right.
And that's it. And we don't care where you stand, what side you're on.
Well, and also to be clear, when we sat down initially, we didn't think it, I don't think we even thought it would last a year, let alone 10 years. Mm. But one of the reasons why people listen to podcasts is to fill a part of the conversation. And we don't want to talk about politics, because that again, that could be something that divides us. And we want people to feel like they're coming into the garage and drinking a cold beer, just like that's what we used to do. We'd sit in your garage, drink beer, and we'd be talking about Ted Bundy. And it's just like, we just want people to feel welcome, no matter what your views are politically, because why are we here? We're not here to talk about politics. We're here to talk about crime.
Well, and hate American made, again, not against the country. What that title is for is at the center of each one of these stories that are all loosely tied together. There is a very hateful individual or group of individuals that caused a lot of harm, a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, death, murder, and what have you. And at the center of that is always an American-born individual that
Right.
you would think if I could tell you these stories and we didn't have to live them or see them on the news, read about them in the newspaper, know
wouldn't
somebody
believe 'em.
that experienced them directly, if we didn't have to have that in our lives, if I told you these stories and removed all the names, I bet you most people would go, yeah, that had to be committed by somebody that wasn't born and raised in that hates America, right? That just
Right.
hates Americans. And that wasn't the case. And so for those that are not familiar, and look, I get the mixed opinions and views on these episodes, because when I sit back and had a chance to look at it 2 weeks afterwards, I was like, damn, every part of this is uncomfortable. Every part of the story is uncomfortable. You have white supremacy, you have gun control, you have religious freedoms, you have
Right. Or
domestic
religious
terrorism.
beliefs, more
Religious-
so than freedoms, but religious beliefs. Yeah.
Beliefs. Yeah. Well, and government shutting down a religious group. You have the ATF who acted irresponsibly at times. You have, again, domestic terrorism. So there was no way that this was not going to be met with that. And you know what? I'm glad that it was. Now, in hindsight, I'm glad that it was, because it was appropriate. And it's good to get riled up over these things. It would be abnormal not to. So it was 6 episodes. The first episode was titled The White Supremacist, which starts with Richard Wayne Snell. And he just had a hatred. He was a white supremacist who had hatred in his heart. And he did not believe that we were all created equal, that we're all created equal and we deserve to live a life of equality. And he murdered other individuals. His hate fueled more than hate. It turned violent and it turned deadly. Now, his episode wasn't just the first one because his hate crimes took place before these other stories. He has ties to all of these groups that we talked about throughout the telling of this story. So episode 2 was Ruby Ridge, when Randy Weaver and his family had fought it out with the FBI, with federal agents, over Randy Weaver breaking some gun laws, and really turned into a tragedy that I think, and that I hope we did a good job of explaining, so that we believe could have been completely avoided, was totally unnecessary. In fact, we referred to it as a series of errors created unnecessary bloodshed for the Weaver family and for federal agents at Ruby Ridge. And then the third episode was The Prophet, which was about David Koresh and his rise within the Branch Davidians. Episode 4 was The Waco Siege, the ATF raiding Mount Carmel. Episode 5 was The Soldier, which was about Timothy James McVeigh, who was a decorated American soldier during Operation Desert Storm, who, through other influences plus the Waco tragedy, he said inspired him to carry out what is episode 6, the Oklahoma City bombing. Oddly enough, the bombing took place on the same day that the state of Arkansas was executing Richard Snell. It is said that he had asked to watch the news that day shortly before the bombs went off and killed so many people, April 19th, 1995. In Oklahoma City. Coincidence? Maybe. Difficult to say. I liked doing those episodes because sometimes I think powerful shows can be uncomfortable. As said, I enjoyed having the opportunity to examine each one of these cases, have the opportunity to do them back to back to back.
Because they're all connected.
Not just because they're connected, but it gave me the chance to analyze them, keeping that in mind while putting together the research and not tailoring any of our storytelling to present that, but to live in that, try to put ourselves in those moments and see this is the dark side of history. This is the dark side of our American history. We can't shy away from it. Just like we don't shy away from the cold cases and we don't shy away from telling you this murder has not been solved. It's the same. We all must recognize and attempt to understand the mistakes and errors that others have made so that we do not repeat them.
Yeah. One of the things on our 10-year journey that has been interesting for me is when we first started and there wasn't a ton of true crime shows out there, we get a lot of requests for cases that have been discussed a lot, or maybe there was documentaries or books about those cases. And then the requests started becoming, hey, what about this case that nobody's really talked about? This hasn't gotten a lot of attention. But as that turned, it seemed like there was a good couple years of a lot of suggestions for cases I've never heard of. I've never heard other people talk about. And then after a couple years of those types of suggestions, we started getting suggestions of like a Waco or a Ruby Ridge or Oklahoma City bombing. You get these requests because the listeners are like, hey, I've heard other people talk about these major crimes. What are your thoughts? Or maybe they just like the way that you're presenting the case. I thought it was a very good series. I guess I can't say I wasn't surprised. Like you'd read some of the comments on social media or some of the emails we got. Like one email would be accusing you of being a Republican, and the next email would be accusing you of being a Democrat. And you're like, we didn't talk anything about politics or our politics on those episodes, but yeah, it was a good series.
There's no way to tell those stories without talking about some of the politics or the sides involved.
Or the beliefs
stories
of the individuals. Yeah.
And that's why, unfortunately, that hate was driven to the point where it was, where it killed people, where people died, it was unnecessary suffering because of the hate in the hearts of some of these individuals.
Yeah, the hate and the beliefs. Well, my number 3, I really enjoyed. It's just a 2-part series, episode 880 and 881, A Killer Halloween. And I guess I'm going to turn it over to you on what was your idea about A Killer Halloween?
That was a conversation that I had with the author of the book that I had recommended that week, and a friend of mine. He had put out a book where he picked several cities and talked about some of the serial killers, a serial killer from each city. And I enjoyed the book because it was a dark roadmap. If you were to just say, you know what, I'm going to hop in my car and cross the country. And if one were to want to do this, as much as I'm into true crime, I would have no desire to stop off in each city and try to live through or relive some of these crimes. I can't say that I'm not guilty of that on some. I did do a bunch of Jack the Ripper stuff when I was over for CrimeCon UK in London. It was only the second time I've had the opportunity to go to the great city of London, and of course, the first time I was there, it was just work nonstop. I was there in my past life for a work trip. This time it was CrimeCon. I was lucky enough to be able to get there a day in advance, stay a day too long. I got to do some of the Jack the Ripper stuff, so that was fantastic. And Boulder did a little bit of the Boulder stuff. We won't go into any great, but
get off my lawn.
I thought, to me, I always enjoyed the slasher films growing up, and you and I have talked Halloween. That's one of our favorite franchises. We've talked about slasher films quite a bit on Off the Record, especially around Halloween time. And to me, the serial killer, unfortunately, is the real life slasher film. I always believe that truth is stranger than fiction. Real life is scarier than fiction. And so, as somebody who likes to be scared, especially at Halloween time, I thought, you know what, let's highlight some of these cities and some of these serial killers. It also gave us an opportunity to discuss some killers that we've not covered yet, we've not learned much about yet. And we recently, just one of the killers that we covered in A Killer Halloween, there was a recent update with him. They just linked him to another murder many decades after the fact. So I, with the permission of the listeners and with you, that's something I think we could revisit in the future, because I enjoyed the research part of it, and I enjoyed hanging out with you in the garage, and I know the listeners enjoyed it as well.
Well, and as as the guy that does the episode artwork,
the artwork was cool. It was very cool, I thought.
Yeah, it always cracks me up when another podcaster goes, "Hey, I just saw your recent episode. That's cool artwork. Who do you have do that?" I'm like, "Well, I do." Or they don't know I do the music, and they'll go, "Hey, Captain, who does the music for your show?" "Well, I do." And they'll go, "Well, who's doing your research for the show?" "Well, we do." You know, like it's basically a 2-man operation. That's how it rolls. So yeah, that's my number 3, and we'll get back to our list after this quick beer break.
A new year, colder days, this is the moment your winter wardrobe really has to deliver. Quince brings together premium materials, thoughtful design, and enduring quality so you stay warm, look sharp, and feel your best all season long. Their outerwear is especially impressive. Each piece is made from premium materials by trusted factories that meet rigorous standards for craftsmanship and ethical production. I went out to dinner last night wearing some Quince gear. Where I live, it's freezing outside, so I like to layer up. And some of my layer up gear includes the Quince Mongolian Cashmere Quarter Zip Sweater, the Australian Merino Wool Full Zip Sweater. Put either of those over one of their performance tees, and now you have your foundation. But my favorite right now has to be the organic stretch corduroy trucker jacket. Shop men, women. If you're an adventurer, they have travel gear plus bags and accessories. And if you're looking for a great deal, click on the $50 cashmere tab. Refresh your winter wardrobe with Quince. Go to quince.com/garage for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. That's QUINCE.com/garage. Free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/garage.
I had the time of my life. I never felt this way before.
From building timelines to assigning the right people and even spotting risks across dozens of projects, Monday Sidekick knows your business, thinks ahead, and takes action. One click on the star and consider it done.
And I owe it all to you.
Try Monday Sidekick. AI you'll love to use on Monday.com.
Own a small biz and need a reliable way to reach new customers? Try TikTok for Business.
We've generated over 100,000 leads, which has converted into over 40,000 sales for our pet insurance policies. I am the CEO of Spot Pet Insurance. TikTok's Smart Plus AI-powered automation takes the guesswork out of targeting, bidding, and optimizing creative. If I can advertise on TikTok, you can too.
Drive more leads and scale your business today with TikTok for Business. Head over to getstarted.tiktok.com/TikTok ads.
All right, Happy New Year's, you filthy animals. Onward and upward, cheers, mates, and let's get back to the best of True Crime Garage 2025.
True Crime Garage Best of 2025, according to the captain and the extra crispy colonel.
It's just a show of us patting ourselves on the back. Well, we did a really great job, guys.
That's the other part of this too, is I had mentioned Ralphie turning in his paper earlier, and that happens frequently, right? Like when we put together an episode, we've lived in it for a week, sometimes more, sometimes less, depending on what the schedule is. But when somebody will comment and say, not your best episode, the problem for the way that we have to do things, and other podcasters live in this world too, so we're not alone, and I'm sure it works the same for television. But once you've done all the prep work and the research and the writing for an episode, that's the episode, right? You can't be, I think maybe only once or twice in our 10 years together did we go about halfway through the recording and go, nope.
Right.
That one can't come out. You throw it out there and you are always kind of hoping for the best, because you never know, will they, the large crowd of folks that we are so lucky to have listening, feel the same way we felt about it? And you never know. And that's why we love having the conversation. And we look, if you don't like the episode, we encourage you to tell us. We want to
we're
know.
Fine with that. Yeah. I think
because we want to, every week, my only goal is to do a better job than last week. And every week, the same goal is to put together the best true crime podcast episode that we possibly can in the amount of time that we have allotted for that.
Yeah, but it's a combination of many things. So you get a case that's suggested to you. Well, how interesting is that case? Are there twists and turns? Are there things that are things in cases or details in cases you've seen before? Are there bizarre things? Does the information make you question anything, whether it's a solved case or an unsolved case? But then you have to gather that information up and figure out what timeline of the story and how do you want to tell the story. So it becomes, well, is the case interesting or not? How well did you research it? How well did you deliver the information? How cool was the artwork? Was the music, did the music enhance the episode or did it hinder the episode? Was it embarrassing? You know what I mean? There's a lot of components, but what's nice, and we've had it happen many times where you feel like the case is fascinating. You feel like we researched it well. We feel like we laid it out the best way we could, and it felt good when we recorded it. And sometimes when I'm editing those episodes, I'm like, man, this one's pretty good. And then when you put it out, you get the crowd goes wild. And sometimes you can feel great about an episode and put it out, and it's just crickets. But that's the life. And like you said, all we can do is do the best we can and move forward. Number 2.
My number 2 is from September 2025, and it's our yogurt shop murders update case. It was from September 29th of last year. And part of that was, this was a case for me for many, many years. It was a head scratcher, the kind of case that keeps you up at night. The case, the type of story that has you constantly analyzing and then reanalyzing the same information over and over again and trying to figure out, what does it mean? What does it tell us about the suspect or suspects? And this case is so complicated because you had false confessions, you had wrongful convictions, you had 4 victims, you had 4 men who were once teenagers at the time of the crime that Austin PD went after very, very hard. In fact, landed 2 of those guys behind prison bars.
Right.
Those guys end up getting their release from prison. And then it wasn't until September of this year that we get the answers. To back up how much this case wrapped me up, got its hooks in me, is we covered the Yogurt Shop murders in episodes 81 and 82. Then we covered the Yogurt Shop murders again. It was titled Yogurt Shop Murders 30 Years Later in episodes 539 and 540. And then the documentary came out last year, the Yogurt Shop Murders documentary. And that gave us the opportunity to revisit the case again.
Yeah, because the documentary gave us more insight and more details. Those were interesting episodes because it's also when you see some of the stuff visually and you get to hear new details and hear stuff from the source, does it change the way you view a case that you have covered so many times?
So that was episodes 866 and 867 in August of 2025. Now, when we did, every time we revisited this case, of course, we were hoping that they would solve it, that they would finally figure this thing out. By the time we did those episodes after the documentary had come out, I had pretty much lost all hope that the case would ever be solved. But that it was September of this year that after more than 33 years, we finally got some closure in the infamous Yogurt Shop murders case that haunted Austin, Texas, since that sad and tragic night when 4 teenage girls were brutally murdered. And the statement we got from the Austin Police Department, and we went into as much depth as we could with the information out at the time regarding the answers and them finally solving this. But from the Austin Police Department, they said, we've made a significant breakthrough in the 1991 I can't believe it's yogurt murder case with new information. They never quit working this case. That's obvious. You have the 4 victims, Jennifer Harbison, her sister Sarah Harbison, and their friends Eliza Thomas and Amy Ayers. All 4 innocent lives taken senselessly and far too soon. Via DNA testing, they identified a suspect. His name, he's deceased, horrible, evil man, serial killer, Robert Eugene Brashers, who committed suicide in 1999. While I've had some difficulties with the outcome, I was so overjoyed that they finally had figured out who was responsible. This guy, as we discussed in that episode, he was a monster before he killed those girls at the yogurt shop. He was a monster afterwards. This is one of those guys. We talked about him recently on and off the record as well. He's one of these guys that none of us would be surprised. None of us should be shocked when they find out months from now or even years from now when they link him to another murder. And that other murder that they link him to could be in another part of this country. But it was cause for a small celebration. And I'm thankful for the work that Austin PD has done on the case. And I applaud them for seeing it through. There's a handful of cases that I can mention that I don't think have been worked. Look, and they were wrong. They were wrong a handful of times in this case.
Right.
But they stuck to it. And there's other departments out there that could learn from. This is a case that leveled that city, that broke the hearts of everyone in that city. And I think is what led to this became personal for Austin PD. And when it becomes personal, there are going to be mistakes that are made. But you know what? I'm not, and I will not hold it against a department for taking a case and making it personal. Sometimes that's what you got to do. That's what you have to do. So anyway, Yogurt Shop Murders Update case that we did, episode we did in September of 2025, and also all the other coverage on the Yogurt Shop Murders case that we did over the years.
I came up with this analogy the other day, which I actually thought was brilliant. Sometimes I surprise myself. I was also told on YouTube that I'm as dumb as wood, which is probably correct. But I said, if I'm going to be as dumb as wood, I want to be as dumb as Pinewood. But I came up with the analogy of you have these, let's say you're watching like a documentary on the NFL, and you have a team that was amazing that got to the Super Bowl and they just didn't play well. But it's something, they lost the game, and it's something that lives with those players for the rest of their lives. But in these crime cases with these detectives, they live with these cases for their whole lives. Whether they're still working the case or not, it just sticks on them. And the fact that they can keep going over it and keep working it and finally get answers for the victims' families, like that, it's amazing. Because like if you ask any of these players, would you want to replay that game? They'd say, hell yes. Give me the chance again. Unlike sports, that's something these detectives can do. They can keep working and fighting for answers. So my number two.
Shout out to Phil Rivers.
Yeah.
He's getting a chance. He's got a chance to go back every
year. And so correct me if I'm wrong, but I want to say this was like a couple years ago. I said something to you of, it'd be, because I wasn't clear when I was watching the Mindhunter series, which was on Netflix. I knew that it was basically a biopic or a docudrama of them creating the behavior science unit at Quantico. And so some of the big people, like when you see scenes of the BTK or them interviewing different serial killers, I was like, okay, well, that's probably all pretty factual, but what about these small cases that they're solving when they're doing their, what do they call it? It was like road school or something like that.
Yeah, the road school.
But I didn't know if those cases were real or if they were just made up or if they were based off on whatever. So I believe it was like a few years ago, I suggested something to you, and then you get case suggestions. I get them. We kind of write them down on this master list. And as we're talking and scheduling some cases out, you were like, hey, I got this idea for this Mindhunter series. And I was like, okay, that's cool. But other than me being able to rewatch it, I had no clue of how you were going to present it, what you're going to do, how good it would be. And it was almost like yes, I was in the garage, but it was like a treat to listen to the details. I remember like talking to friends and other podcaster friends and going, man, Nick is just knocking this series out of the park. So yeah, it was just an absolute joy, and I had no clue what was coming. That's what she said.
Captain, we park our cars in the same garage. We have sharing opinions here because the Mindhunter series that we did in 2025, episodes 868 to 871, a 4-part series, was my favorite of 2025. Part of it was that I got the opportunity to go back and watch the first season again. The other part of it too that I really enjoyed was some of our accomplishments as well, because when you think about Mindhunter, the series, the TV show, and really the true story of it, there were 3 people at the center of that story: John Douglas, Robert Ressler, and Ann Burgess. When the 2 of us sat down in the garage the first couple of times and hit record, and one, we didn't even know we were going to have a show to release to anybody. And then when we did release it, we didn't know anybody would listen. And then we didn't think we would be doing this, as you said earlier, for all of these years. It's not always it's not always easy to do the show or put the shows together. But when you get the opportunity to do a show with John Douglas, do a show with Ann Burgess, God bless it, Robert Ressler, I wish he was around. We probably would have got the opportunity to do a show with him as well. I think we've had John Douglas, the Mindhunter, on our show, I think 3 times. Dr. Ann Burgess, probably my favorite interview and conversation, true crime conversation ever. Really, absolutely. She's such a gem, such a joy. So
Well,
brilliant.
here's what's funny too, though, is John Douglas is very hard to edit, and Ann Burgess is very easy to edit.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a polar spectrum, but it's both of them are fascinating listens.
Well, Douglas is the genius that's going to track down the unknown killer based off of the crime scene. And so his mind is just racing like 10,000 miles a minute, where Ann Burgess is more of the brilliant academic who knows how to lay things out in a textbook style. And she was while she was never a real, true, sworn in FBI officer, agent, she was a consultant and hired and paid by the FBI for many, many years. And we originally had Ann Burgess. That episode was off the record. It was an off the record episode. As brilliant as I always believed her to be, and as much as I always enjoyed her work, I didn't know the conversation would go as well as I thought that it did. And so when we did this Mindhunter series, which was an examination of the dramatization of the Mindhunter story put out on Netflix, I sat down, pen to paper, watching every episode and going, all right, is that killer real? Is that part of this story? Is this something that was true? Did it, even down to the point of a Time magazine cover that was in a scene on sitting on an end table or a coffee table? Like, was that really a Time magazine cover at any time? Or was that just something planted there? And one of the scenes that I had never picked up on before until I'm looking at it with a magnifying glass is the scene where the Ann Burgess character is talking to the Robert Ressler and John Douglas character in her office, and she's got her bookshelf behind her. And I was looking at the spines of every one of those books on that shelf, and one of them, in fact, was a John Douglas book that was released in the 90s. And we know, people that have watched the show know that Mindhunter, this series, starts off and takes place in the late 70s. So that book wasn't even out yet. That was just something that the director and the smart folks that worked on that show kind of planted in the background as something
It's
fun.
called the Easter egg. Yeah.
And so I really enjoyed getting the opportunity to go back and watch it again. And it was also a good excuse for us to, within that series, right before we kicked off our series, and this was
well, the Mindhunter series was episodes 868, 869, 870, and 871. 4-part series for your earballs,
which all took place in the middle of September. What we did was we bookended those with a refill of 2 of our John Douglas episodes, which I think he's been on for 5. I know he's been on 3 different times. I can't recall if they were all 2-parters. That was when we had the opportunity to talk with John Douglas about some of the older cases, more infamous cases that the folks out there know, the Zodiac case, the West Memphis 3, John Benet Ramsey, things of that nature. And then at the other end of that, we released what was originally the off the record episode with Dr. Ann Burgess. Again, she's a first generation Mindhunter along with the other 2 gents that we mentioned, and her level of understanding and expertise when it comes to victimology and post offense behavior of your suspect is so genius and so valuable to their investigations and their manhunt for the criminal, the unknown criminal at the time. So love talking with her, love talking with John Douglas, of course. And I really enjoyed putting together this series. I'm hoping we can find time in 2026. Maybe we do season 2 as well.
Yeah. So when we did our best true crime documentaries of 2025, we had nothing that overlapped, but on this list of the best of True Crime Garage 2025, we have 2 that are overlapping, because my number 1 is the Yogurt Shop Murders update episode, which was episode 874. And it's simply because we've talked about that case. We've looked at that case a bunch. Again, you want to be hopeful, but I just wasn't. And anytime anything came out about it, I just wasn't. And then there was that documentary that came out, which I thought was very well put together, great production. It reminded me of true crime documentaries of old, but when it was all said and done, it didn't leave me with a lot of hope. And then I still remember where I was at. I was laying down on my bed and my phone went off, and then it went off again, and then it went off again. And I went, who the hell's texting me so late? And there was 3 or 4 texts. Did you see that they solved the yogurt shop murders? And I couldn't believe it. I was like, I got up, ran to my computer, and I remember finding a news clip about it and posting it because I like to do that. If you follow us on Facebook or you follow us on Instagram, I'm constantly posting little clips of whether they're cases that we've covered or we're going to cover or cases that we haven't got to yet. I try to just post stuff. So if you're into true crime and what's going on in the true crime world, that's what I do. I also do stuff when I hear about a new documentary coming out. I'll post, hey, I heard this new documentary is coming out in a month. So follow us on Instagram and Facebook. But was it our best episode? I don't know. But I never thought the case would get solved. It was a joyous episode because you go, here's this case that's so old that it's a case that there's so much stacked up against you. You have a lot of victims. You don't have that many eyewitnesses. It's a small town. Then we have, teenagers that are accused. You have a fire that destroys evidence. You have the firefighters coming in to put out the fire. That destroys evidence. And you just wondered, whatever they had, was it solid information? Was it solid evidence? Were they ever going to solve it? And out of all the cases that you'd want solved, I mean, of course you want them all solved, but we all have like a handful of cases that we're hoping for one day. Like I tell people all the time, if they ever solve the JonBenet Ramsey case, that will break the internet for a good week. So it was a case I never thought would get solved, and then here we are. And hopefully in 2026, a bunch of unsolved and cold cases get solved in 2026.
Thank you, Captain. I love looking back and checking in on our work for 2025, and it's an inspiration for 2026. My top 3, my favorite projects, episodes that we did for 2025. Number 3 was Hate American Made, a 6-part series that kicked off in April of 2025. Also, number 2, the Yogurt Shop Murders Update, our continued coverage of the Yogurt Shop Murders from Austin, Texas. We did those episodes in September of 2025. And then our Mindhunter series, 4 parts, episodes 868 to 871 is my top choice for 2025.
And my list is number 3, A Killer Halloween. Number 2, the Mindhunter series. Number 1, the Yogurt Shop Murders Update. But man, looking back on all the episodes we did, some of the cases that it's weird because some of them you see the artwork and you go, oh, that doesn't seem like it was that long ago. And other ones you're like, wait, we did that this year? I thought that was like 2 years ago. But man, some wild cases like God's Misfits or David Glenn Lewis, Ellen Greenberg, Killing for Chaos. And I mean, the missing solder children, like I was like, am I allowed to put that on my list? We just we just covered it. But I thought that case was fascinating, and I think we did a good job, but who freaking knows?
I had a bunch of honorable mentions. Killing Was Purposeful, 5-part series back in May. Stolen, the Angie Houseman story, a 3-part series. The Park Bench Murders, a case that we've continued, a case here from Northeast Ohio that we continue to revisit. The Santa Rosa Murders, the hitchhiking murders. We did a 4-part series on that. Killing for Chaos was a bizarre story.
Yeah.
It always seems to surprise and fascinate me when we sit down and we look at a case. It's not every week, but it is most weeks where I'm like, when am I going to stop being shocked and surprised by the details of these true crime stories?
Do you have a favorite off the record episode of last year?
Ooh, that's a great question. Not one that I anticipated. I will say, though, it doesn't really answer your question. I'm going to go throw this out there. I know I've already referenced it, but of course, the Ann Burgess interview was my favorite off the record of all time. Of
right.
What we've been doing off the record 8 of the 10 years that we've been doing True Crime Garage.
No clue.
Nobody
stop counting.
It's a mystery to us. That's somebody should do an episode on that. Off the record with Ann Burgess, my favorite one of all time.
Yeah, we just put out an episode last week called Lifesavers, and going back and editing the episode, it was actually cracking me up, which normally doesn't happen because I'm focused. I got to be extra focused when I'm editing. Or the Brian Schaefer update one, even though it was like bogus bullshit information, it was still fun to talk about because that's something we're going to dive back into that case again this year. And I think people are going to be shocked about what we're learning. If you're not subscribed to Off the Record, it's the best way to support the show. It's us and the listeners, and that's it. And we appreciate everybody that supports True Crime Garage and supports Off the Record. And I want to thank everybody for joining us here in the garage each and every week. Thanks for telling your mother. Thanks for telling your brother.
And for the longtime listeners, thanks for joining us back here for a whole nother year of True Crime Garage.
So yeah, onward and upward in 2026. Colonel, do we have any recommended reading for the beautiful listeners?
Yes. This week we are recommending Below the Surface, a new true crime podcast. And we have a preview here for you for Below the Surface. It's from Abjact Entertainment and hosted by Olivia McKenzie. And every episode you'll hear about a different fascinating, sometimes bizarre case. Some of these cases are solved, some still remain unsolved, and there's always one common theme: water. The first 2 episodes are out now, and you can find Below the Surface everywhere you listen to podcasts.
A missing person, a strange death, a vanished vehicle, a series of unanswerable questions. In so many true crime mysteries, the answers remain elusive. But in many instances, the clues lead right to the water's edge, and sometimes the truth lies below the surface. Hi listeners, my name is Olivia and I'm the host of the true crime podcast Below the Surface from Abjact Entertainment, the podcast that features bizarre cases with a common theme: water. You can listen to Below the Surface on every major podcast platform or app. Be sure to subscribe today so that you don't miss an episode.
For everything true crime, check out truecrimegarage.com. And until next week,
be good, be kind, and don't litter.